Imagine being pulled over late at night, lights flashing, officers demanding answers, suspicion in every word. Now imagine this. The woman they treated like a criminal wasn't just any driver. She was about to become their new boss, the police chief. What happened that night shocked the entire department, and it's a story you'll never forget. The glow of red and blue lights washed over the black sedan, turning the quiet suburban street into a scene of tension. Two uniformed officers approached cautiously, hands resting near their holsters. To them, it was just another late-night stop. Inside the car sat Danielle Parker, a confident black woman in her early 40s. She was dressed in a sharp navy blue suit, her posture calm, her expression unreadable. To anyone passing by, she looked like a professional returning from a long day. But to the officers, she was simply a driver they had decided to pull over. What they didn't know was that Danielle had just arrived in town that very evening. She had driven hours to move into her new apartment, boxes stacked neatly in her trunk. She wasn't just a newcomer. She was a woman with a purpose, someone about to step into one of the most powerful roles in the city. But in that moment, none of that mattered. To the flashing lights, she was just another car on the side of the road. "License and registration?" "Please," Officer Miller demanded, his flashlight beam cutting across her face. Danielle calmly handed over her documents, but she could sense the edge in his tone. He wasn't simply checking papers, he was looking for something more. The second officer, Jacobs, circled the vehicle, peering through the windows as though hunting for a hidden crime. "Where are you headed this late, ma'am?" he asked suspiciously, his voice carrying the weight of doubt. Danielle answered politely, steady and clear. "Just moving in. Long day of travel." But instead of accepting her response, the officers exchanged a look. Something about her composure seemed to irritate them. They weren't expecting confidence. "Mind if we take a look in the trunk?" Miller pressed, his words sharp. Danielle raised an eyebrow. "Is there a problem, officers?" Miller smirked, tilting his head with authority. "We'll decide that. Pop the trunk." With a deep breath, Danielle complied. Frustration simmered beneath her calm exterior, but she stayed composed. As the officers dug through her belongings, suitcases, files, boxes of kitchenware, they found nothing unusual, just the possessions of a woman starting fresh. And as Danielle stood there watching them search, a thought echoed in her mind. If only they knew. Because the woman they were treating with suspicion, the woman they assumed was just another driver, was about to become their new police chief. After nearly 20 minutes of unnecessary questions, probing stares, and a thorough search of her car, the officers finally allowed Danielle to leave. Her belongings were hastily shoved back into the trunk, as though her time and dignity didn't matter. But just before she could step back into her car, Officer Miller leaned closer, his tone dripping with authority. "Next time, don't act so calm when officers stop you. Makes you look suspicious." Danielle didn't flinch. She simply smiled, the kind of calm, knowing smile that carried 1,000 unspoken words. Without responding, she closed the car door, started the engine, and drove off into the night, leaving behind two officers who had no idea just how badly they had misjudged her. Because by morning, everything was about to change. The next day, the precinct buzzed with anticipation. The city had been waiting weeks for the arrival of their new police chief, a leader chosen from outside their ranks, someone with a reputation for cleaning up corruption, demanding accountability, and building trust between officers and the community they served. Whispers echoed through the halls. "Who do you think it is? I heard they're tough as nails." "Whoever it is, I hope they can handle this department." At exactly 9 a.m., every officer gathered in the main hall. Miller and Jacob stood shoulder to shoulder, chatting quietly, still smug from the night before. They wondered aloud about the new boss, never imagining what, or rather who, was coming. The chatter fell silent when the double doors swung open. In walked Danielle Parker. Her posture was strong, her presence commanding. Dressed in a crisp suit, chin lifted with quiet authority, she walked to the front with the confidence of someone who knew exactly who she was. The room froze. The mayor stepped forward, beaming with pride. "Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce your new police chief, Chief Danielle Parker." The announcement hit like a thunderclap. Miller's jaw fell open. Jacobs nearly dropped his coffee. The woman they had stopped, questioned and treated with suspicion just hours before, was now their superior, the highest-ranking officer in the entire department. Danielle's eyes swept across the room. When she found Miller and Jacobs, she paused, letting the silence stretch. She didn't need to say a word. The sharp look in her eyes said it all. "I remember you." Finally, she spoke, her voice steady and powerful. "Good morning, everyone. I know many of you are curious about me, but let me tell you this. Leadership isn't about the rank on your collar or the badge on your chest. It's about respect. Respect for the law, respect for this uniform, and most importantly, respect for the people we serve." The room erupted into applause, echoing off the walls. But Miller and Jacobs stood frozen, their hands still, sweat trickling at their temples. Because they knew respect was exactly what they had failed to show the night before. Over the next few weeks, Chief Danielle Parker wasted no time proving why she had been chosen for the job. She wasn't the kind of leader who sat behind a desk pushing papers. Instead, she was out in the streets, walking through neighborhoods, shaking hands with residents, and sitting down with community leaders who had long lost faith in the department. She restructured the department from the inside out, launching new training, programs on fairness, accountability, and de-escalation. She insisted her officers attend community meetings, not as enforcers but as listeners. Slowly, trust began to rebuild. Citizens who had once crossed the street to avoid the police now greeted them with cautious but growing respect. But despite her busy schedule, Danielle never forgot what happened on that first night. The sting of being unfairly profiled wasn't something she could brush off, and she knew that if she wanted to change the culture of the department, she had to start with the officers who had been at the center of that moment. One afternoon, she summoned Officers Miller and Jacobs to her office. The two men exchanged nervous glances as they stepped inside, their stiff posture betraying the unease they felt. They had seen Danielle's leadership in action, and they knew she wasn't someone to be taken lightly. "Sit down," she said firmly, her voice carrying both authority and calm. The officers obeyed, sitting stiffly in their chairs. Their eyes flicked nervously around the office, avoiding her steady gaze. Danielle leaned forward, her hands clasped on the desk. "Do you know what the hardest part of my job is?" They shook their heads silently. "It's knowing," she continued, her tone sharp but measured, "that some officers still judge people not by their actions, but by their skin color, their clothing, or even the car they drive. Last night, when you stopped me, I gave you an opportunity to show professionalism. Instead, what I got was suspicion." The room was thick with silence. Neither officer dared to speak. "I'm not here to punish you," Danielle went on. "I'm here to teach you. Because when you treat someone unfairly, you don't just disrespect them, you disrespect this badge, this department, and the very community we swore to protect." Her words landed like thunder. Miller and Jacobs sat frozen, realizing just how close they had come to destroying their careers, and how much damage they could have done to the people they were meant to serve. From that day forward, something changed in them. The arrogance was gone. They became some of the most respectful officers on the force, living proof that true authority doesn't come from intimidation or power. It comes from integrity. As for Chief Danielle Parker, she wasn't just running the department, she was transforming it. Crime went down, community trust went up, and for the first time in years, both officers and citizens felt proud of the badge again. And that night when two officers pulled her. And that's the incredible story of how two officers learned, a lesson they'd never forget, and how Chief Danielle Parker transformed an entire department. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories just like this. And remember, respect is the strongest badge anyone can wear.